Hello, students. Welcome back. So, this is a short crash course on Python. The topics that I'll be covering would be Python syntax and data types. So, for example, you have integer, you have string, float, boolean. I'll explain you these types of data types. I'll also show you type conversion. Another name for that is typecasting. Essentially, what you're doing, you're converting one data type to a different kind. Maybe you're converting float to integer. Then I'll also show you control flow structure. For example, if and else if statements. Also show you input function. Also show you for loop, the iterator. What is a range function? I'll explain that, and also explain you a while loop. Then also the data structure. This is very important, like how you store data in your Python. You can store in a list, you can store inside the tuple, you can store inside a set or a dictionary. Each one of it has its strengths and weaknesses. Then also explain you a little bit about functions and also show you the file operations where you can read to a file or you can write to a file, and also show you how you can handle error. That is called error handling. So let's start with the most basic stuff in Python, that is print statement. So this is how you print stuff. You just say print, open the round bracket, close the round bracket, and if I run this, it will print nothing because there's nothing to print inside. I put nothing in there. So let's put something inside now. In this case, I'm printing to hello world dot today it's raining. And when I run this, it's gonna print out this string right here. Okay, I don't have to use this single quote. I can use double quote too. But make sure that if you use double quote, you also use double quote at the end, like double quote over here, and then close it with the double quote over here. And then whatever is inside this is gonna happily, Python is gonna happily print this thing out. You can actually print multiple statements. In this particular instance, let's say you want to print 3 hello world like this, and then comma, today it's raining. And what Python is going to do is going to print this string right here. And then after that, it's going to print this string right here. So you can put multiple strings like this. So I can come and paste another one right here. In this case, it's going to print out this string, and then this string, and also this string right here. Now, if you notice, it did the first print statement, which is this right here. And after that, it performed this print statement. That would be this right here. What if you want to print a multi-line string? Like in this case, you have multiple lines. How would you do that? Well, in this case, you can use triple quote. So triple quote like this, and then write whatever multi-line messages you have. And over here at the end, you close with the triple quote. Now it's going to print out happily. Now make sure it has to be a triple quote. If you do not use triple quote, let's say you use single quote. Oops, let me just come over here and end this with the single quote. This is going to throw an error. And you can see that Python does not like that. So if you want to print multi-line messages, you have to print this in triple quotes. Now let's talk about Python syntax and data types. The most common ones are integer, string, float, and booleans. Now if suppose I type print x, and if I run this, that's going to give me an error because x is not defined. Python is treating this as a variable because it is not present inside a quote. If I put this inside quotes, like say double quote, then Python is going to treat this as a string. Now, if I remove the quote, then Python is expecting this to be defined somewhere. And that's why it's giving me the error. This right here is basically a comment. I'm writing a little comment over here, what this is doing. So what Python does is going to ignore this particular part. So you can actually use this functionality to write little notes over here. So let me disable this line. So the way you disable is put an octothorpe or a hashtag in front of it. Now when you run this, nothing will happen. Python has disabled this line. Okay, so let's define some variables. So let's say my x is a variable. I'm defining it as 10. Now, since there is no decimal over here, Python is going to treat this as an integer. So my x is an integer variable. My y in this case is a float variable because this 3.14 has a decimal in it. In this case, name is a string variable because there is a quote present over here. So this is called a string variable. In this case, is ready. This is a Boolean variable. Now, one of the characteristics of a Boolean variable, it can only hold two values, true or false. So anytime when Python sees this word true, it's going to treat this as a Boolean variable. So let's analyze this a little bit further. Suppose my x is equal to 10. In other words, my x is an integer. So I can print out the variable x in this case. So when I run this, it's going to print out, it's going to run this print statement, and that's going to print out the variable x is 10. And I also want to see the type. So the way you can see the type, like what kind or what type that variable is by using this inbuilt by using this function called type x. And that's going to print out the types, and you can see that it's an integer int. Let's look at the float now. So let's say my y equal to 3.14. In other words, my y is a float variable, and I want to print the variable y, and I also want to print the type. So it prints out the variable y is 3.14 because it's defined as 3.14, and also it prints out the type, it is float. Let's look at this one, MSG, where message equal to Xena is a warrior. In this case, my message is a string variable because of the presence of these double quotes in the beginning and towards the end. So now when I run this, it's going to print out the variable message is, it's going to print out the message, which is the variable message is Xena is a warrior, and also the type. In this case, it's a str, which is short for string. Let's take a look at this one. Is ready equal to true? In this case, you can have either true or false. So when I run this, in this case, it's going to print out the variable is ready is true, true right here. And also what type that is telling me it's bool, which is a short for boolean. Now, if I make this capital T to small t, Python is going to throw an error because this is not defined. Python treats Python wants the boolean to be capital true with T capital or false with F capital. So if I come over here and I type false, when I run this, it's gonna work just fine. And there you go. And now the type conversion. Another name for that is typecasting. A lot of times you come across situations where the variable that's provided to you is in the form of a string and you have to convert that into an integer. So in this particular case, you can use that int. Int is a function that takes this string right here and it's going to try to convert that into an integer if it can. In this case, it can because 3 can be converted into an integer. Same thing happens with this float. It's a function that takes this string variable and it's going to try to convert that into a float. So when I run this, it's going to print out converted value of a. Oops, sorry. Converted value of a is going to print out a. In this case, a is 3. And also I want to see the type. So if you print out the type, you're going to see it's int right here because a has been converted into int. Same thing with my b. In this case, it prints out b. That would be b right here, 2.5. And also it prints out the type of b. In this case, it's float. It prints out float. Now, if I say something else, let's say 30h, and if I run this, it's going to give me an error because 3h cannot be converted into an integer. Now let's understand control flow structures. Let's look at if, elif, and else statement. Suppose you want to write a logic. If your age is less than 13, it's going to print child, and it's also going to print out the age. If the age is between 13 and 18, then it's going to print out teenager and also going to print out the ages. Otherwise, it's going to print out adult. So let's say my age is 2. Let's start with something simple. Let's say my age is 10. 10. Run this and it's going to print out child because this age is less than 13 right here. Okay, now let's change this to 15. All right. Now when I run this, it's going to print out teenager. In other words, it prints out this because this condition is no longer true. So that's why it prints out this because this condition now is true. On the other hand, if I change this variable age to 29, run this, and now it's going to print out adult. It's going to execute this statement because this part is not true, this part is not true, and so only this part is left, so that's going to execute this statement. There's something called input function where you can ask the user to supply input. In this case, you can use something called input. This function will actually ask the user, please enter your name, and it's also going to ask the user, what is your favorite sport? And based on that, if the sport is football, it's going to print out hello, the name of the person. I also like football. Otherwise, else it's going to print out hello, the name of the user, whatever the name was entered over here, and it's going to print out I wish I knew more about that sport. So let's execute this. In this case, asking you please enter your name. Let's say my name is Gary. Gary, enter. And what is your favorite sport? Let's say my favorite sport is football. Enter, and there you go. Now it prints out, it checks this condition right here, sport equal to football. That turns out to be true, so it's going to execute this line. Hello Gary, I also like football. There you go. Let's run this one more time. This time we're going to change the sport. Hello, name. Let's say my name now is Ram. Enter. And what's your favorite soccer favorite game? Let's say it is hockey. Hockey. Enter, and there you go. It says, "Hello, Ram. I wish I knew more about hockey." So this prints out this statement right here.